Alright guys, today we're going to talk about the early American civilization. So we're kind of going to backtrack a little and we're going to go back to BC era to see how the civilizations in the Western Hemisphere and North America, South America, how they developed before Europeans got to them. When we talk about the Europeans exploring and colonizing the area, we'll talk about that tomorrow with exploration. So, I know you have all heard this before. The Bering Strait, this right here, during the Ice Age, it froze over and it created a land bridge, and many historians believe that's how all these Native Americans got into North and South America. They crossed this land bridge. After 10,000 BC, when the Ice Age ended, the ice melted, they were stuck here, and they were cut off from the rest of the world until Columbus in 1492. So, one of the first civilizations, the Olmec civilization, they're the first large American civilization. They live in the Mexican Gulf Coast. They live in this area because it's warm weather, and of course, you know, they're always following their food sources. Now, they had no real cities. They lived in villages that, like we talked about with many times before, that are centered around ceremonial centers, religious buildings, and everything. They build these massive monumental pyramids for religious use. They're famous. They have these giant human stone skulls and everything. But they're one of the big first civilizations in the Western Hemisphere. So, now they're conquered, they die out, and you have the Mayan civilization. The Mayan civilization is still in the Yucatan Peninsula in the Gulf of Mexico. They had city-states that had independent kings, but priests are still very powerful. Priests are ones that control a lot of what's going on in the Mayan civilization. They build these roads. Roads are so important because these roads help them connect trade with other people, other civilizations, and help these civilizations prosper. And this idea of roads, remember, Rome created them around the same time period, but to have them also being created in another part of the world at the same time without these two civilizations having any contact with each other is a big deal. So, the Mayan advances, you had the hieroglyphic writing system. They started making books from bark, and of course, the one that everybody knows about is they had their Mayan calendar, their very highly accurate 365-day calendar that the world was supposed to end in 2012, but it didn't. They also, like I already said, they had those elaborate trade networks with neighboring civilizations. They also had very advanced mathematical calculations for everything, and way more advanced than what was going on in other parts of the world. So, the Mayan collapse, we don't know why the Mayans disappeared. We think it was excessive wars, extreme droughts brought on by the deforestation, but it could also have been a mixture of all these events together that caused them to collapse. Now, this image, this is what's known as a Mayan temple. It kind of looks like the pyramids that they had in Egypt, but they were also built as a place of worship and everything, and the house of the dead. So, when the Mayans collapse and everything, the Aztecs come in and they fill the void. They take over former civilization there. They take over their capital, and they settle and they build their own capital. They build a capital named Tenochtitlán, and it's a city on islands right here, and it's man-made city. They build these man-made islands on the shallow lake, and the city's floating. And the city itself holds over 1 million people. They eventually rule over almost all of Mexico with over 30 million in population. They had an emperor who is selected by a council of priests and nobles who rules over everybody. They also had an elaborate slave system. So here's an image of what their slaves look like. They have the things around their neck to illustrate they were slaves. And slaves weren't just people that you conquered. There were people that conquered, but it could be orphans were slaves, or anybody. If you owed someone else money, you were their slave until you were able to pay them back. So their advances, they had formal schools for the sons of the nobles. They developed the Mayan calendar system more. They had math, but the medicine. The medicine was way beyond anything going on in the rest of the world. They set bones, they filled cavities, and they treated fevers. This was revolutionary for this time period. They also had building techniques, including canals, bridges, and pyramids. Again, they're just like the Mayans and Olmec. They used extensive trade networks, trade routes to trade with each other, and that's what helped their civilization to build and grow so huge during this time period. Now, they did practice a religion where they used human sacrifice to appease the sun god, and how this worked was they would cut out the heart of a person while they were still alive and burn it in an altar to appease the sun god. Anything that was going on, anything bad, they thought the sun god was upset with them, so they would sit there and they would sacrifice more and more people, like during droughts and everything. They were getting so bad that when the Spanish get to the New World, they're sacrificing 10,000 people each year. And just that, the Spanish were just disgusted by how they could sacrifice so many people to a god and everything, and they were disgusted by this. So, we talked about what was the civilizations in the Mexico region. Now we're going to talk about in South American region. So, pre-Incan, because Inca is the big civilization in South America. You had the Chavan, they developed work with gold. They domesticated the llama. You had the Machaca, they developed advanced ceramic pottery and irrigation systems, bringing water to their crops. And the Nazca, they had these patterns laid out. And here's some historians say this is proof that we have aliens, that aliens exist, and that aliens have visited this planet in the past, because there's no way that the Native Americans during this time could have known how to lay this out like this without having a bird's eye view that only aliens could have provided. So, the Incans, they are located along the Pacific coast of South America in the mountains of Peru. Their ruler was named Sapa Inca. He was considered a god to them. They had, like the other ones, road system for trained professional armies to quickly respond to any threat of rebellion, and for trade. Their road system was extravagant because you had this mountain terrain. They had to go quickly to one point to another to be able to put down any rebellions or to stop attacks from other civilizations. So their advancements, they had an extensive network road over 12,000 miles. They had a system of record keeping called Kubu, which they had knots on a rope, and based off the knots you knew what place 100, 10th, or ones, and then you added them all up to know how much it was, keeping records of like pounds of grain, pounds of corn, whatever you're doing. They had communication systems along their roads so that people could communicate with each other, that they had runners at each station, so the person would run to that station, give the note to another person, that person would run to the next station, and so on. That way messages could be received quickly and more efficiently from one city to another. They also use terraces on mountainsides. So here's an example right here. They live in the mountains, so this allowed them the advantage that other civilizations did not have. They could grow crops on different levels and have a more diversified food source, which allowed them to have healthier, longer lives because they were eating a variety of foods. And they were accomplished surgeons that used antiseptics and anesthesia when they performed surgeries. So, that's it for the civilizations. We'll get more into the fall of the Aztecs and Incans with Cortez and Pizarro when we talk about exploration tomorrow. If you have any questions, let me know. Thank you.